If you guys didn't know, which is pretty unlikely, I love Attack on Titan. It's firmly in my top 3 anime, up there with Frieren in '86, and it's not leaving. I've made 2 videos about this show that I believe are pretty good looking back, but those videos were made a long time ago, and since then I really haven't gone back into talking about AOTs as much as I used to. It's not because my love for this show waned or anything, it's because it's so exhausting to argue about this show, and to me it did start to fatigue my interest in it, so I really just took a step back from bitching, which was a great idea, because outside of those cave dwellers and the internet, the AOT fanbase is really good. On TikTok the edits are great, and I had started to love this story as much as I did when I first saw it, when I took a step back, and especially when I talked about it with my IRL friends. I even went to see the movie with the gang and got traumatized again, because somehow I forgot how devastating it was. So yeah guys, if you ever feel yourself losing interest in a story, take a step back from it and just enjoy it. Hey, I'm talking to you JJK fans. Anyway, I'm gonna ignore everything I just said and go back to talking about this show like a loser again, because hey, that's what I do. And what better way to return than to talk about probably the most polarizing topic in the show, Eren Yeager. Well, maybe polarizing isn't the right term, but discussions around Eren tend to get divided and heated. I'd say Eren is pretty misunderstood by some of the community. There's a lot of ideas around him that just aren't really totally true, and people sometimes focus on the wrong parts of him. Eren, above all else, is a kid who was born in a hole and only dug himself further in it during his life. He is a beautifully tragic tale. Before we go on, I want to make it very clear that I love Eren Yeager. He's my second favorite character in the story and is one of my favorite protagonists ever. But my reasons for loving Eren tend to be a little different from why some other people may love him. A lot of people fell in love with him during Season 4, and I do agree that's when he was at his best. But people falsely believe that Season 4 Eren is vastly different from Eren in the previous seasons. He acts pretty different, sure, but at his very core, Eren does not change. He grows with experience, but the Eren we see in episode 1 and the Eren we see in the end are fundamentally the same person. Everything comes around to his absurd innate desire for freedom, something he had since the moment he was born into a society where all he could see no matter where he looked was towering walls, blocking him from exploring outwards and seeing what the world had to offer. But Eren wasn't the only one who desired to see that world outside the walls. We see other characters that were also very interested, most notably Erwin and Armin. Erwin became a scout commander because of his curiosity, ever since his father inspired him, and especially after his father disappeared. He pushed forward so hard to discover the truths of the world. That was his entire thing, to push forward and advance. He ended up going forward till his last breath. By the way, Return to Shiganshina is getting a video, don't worry. That arc is way too good to not make a video on it. When is it coming out? Great question. Anyway, we go to Armin, probably one of, if not the most connected character to Eren. It was Armin, after all, that first gave Eren this image of the outside world, that image that stayed with Eren for his entire life. And it was Eren that begged Levi to save Armin in Shiganshina. Again, that is definitely getting a video, oh my god. But even with these examples of these prominent and important characters wanting to see the outside world, they were still able to suppress their dreams for the greater good. That is actually a very prominent theme with pretty much every major character we see. The ability to give up your dream for the greater good. Or as Levi puts it,
give up on your dream and charge to your death.
in the case with Erwin and Armin, they both did it in Shiganshina. Erwin with his march, and Armin with his sacrifice. That wouldn't be the last time Armin does it, however, as for practically the entirety last arc, he repeatedly does it, dismissing his own desires and wishes for the greater good of the world. I'll mention more characters doing this as they come up, but the important thing is that Eren never did this. Eren could not get rid of his dream. Until his last breath, he pushed forward for it, ignoring everything else for better and worse. And that is the central premise of his tragedy. When we first see Eren all the way back in Season 1, we see an immature brat who acts on first impulse, which was expected, because in the beginning, he was a literal child. But after the fall of Shiganshina, he doesn't get swayed from his dreams by seeing his home crumble and his mom killed. His fire only burned brighter. Now his goals included eradicating all the Titans, as that's the reason why the towering walls were built in the first place. Which, side note, in this show, I'm pretty sure he actually only had like one Titan kill with ODM gear. Obviously this is because his role shifted, and well, he is a Titan and all that, but it's still really funny. He joined the scouts to kill all the Titans to avenge his mom so he could finally see the outside world that was promised. Unlike Jean, for example, who joined the scouts despite his wants to live the luxury life in the inner walls. After Trost, he could not in good faith live that life, so he decided to join the scouts, and well, the rest is history. Jean actually embodies the idea of giving up your dreams the best. He was one of the only survivors of the show, and even when he had the opportunities and every reason to go live that luxurious life, he didn't. He stayed the course and became an unbelievable leader and an amazing character. Funnily enough, Jean and Eren are portrayed as rivals throughout the show. They bicker a lot, fight, and both want Mikasa. It's all fun to watch.
Why is isn't anybody stopping us. How long's this gonna go on? Shit, I think I'm gonna barf up that meat.
And they go on opposite paths throughout the show. Eren doubles down instead of straying off of his original desires. In the early show, before anything big was revealed, Eren pushed himself incredibly hard to try to accomplish his dreams. He also had to, as he was effectively humanity's last hope back then, which is an unimaginable amount of pressure, but he kept going because of how determined he is. He, from the very beginning of the show, kept moving forward, something that'll be a central quote much later on, huh? But a very key thing about Eren's early efforts, or really his efforts throughout the entire show, is that he fails. Time and time again, he fails. Starting from the very beginning in Trost, he immediately got eaten. But it was at this moment where we first really saw his superhuman determination. Even in the literal stomach of a Titan, all he can think about is his dreams and goals. And that's symbolized by the fact that this is the first time he would himself transform into a Titan. Of course, after this point is where the pressure really mounted, with everyone citing him as the hope of humanity or what would doom it. And he, of course, being Eren, pushes forward to prove himself as the hope of humanity, holding up that big ass rock to save everyone. This was a sick sequence looking back, by the way. Look at how innocent everyone was here compared to the end. But the more important part from this sequence was this little scene here. This is the first time Eren transformed under his own control, and it didn't go smoothly to begin with. He knocked himself out, but he did get himself up, and this sequence here is really important. Armin's words were able to ignite Eren back to life, and you could literally see his fire burn here. His fire to push forward. I've said that phrase a lot so far, and that's intentional, because doesn't it sound really familiar to what someone says a lot later on? These same ideas keep coming up. During the female Titan arc, Eren really got his first experience with the life of being a scout. Multiple people had died because of a decision he made. This was the first time he really saw the impact of his actions, and really the reality of the world he lives in, and the reality of the journey he'd have to take to get to his dream of freedom. People can and will die because of him. This arc also started a trend of Eren getting captured, and this happens a lot. When I first watched the show, I thought it was a little repetitive. From this arc to Uprising, Eren gets captured every time. But the more I look back at it, it really wasn't that bad. And something I actually really liked about this trend is how it goes so far against his dreams. His dream is freedom, and every time he tried to pursue that dream, he got captured, putting him in a situation that restricts his freedom the most. In addition, all of those closest to him dedicated and gave everything to protect him and rescue him when necessary, making him feel even more like a burden and even limiting others' freedoms. Speaking of the ones closest to him, we get to what makes Eren an entire story over the top, and that is the dynamics between characters. And we're gonna start with Eren and Reiner. Eren really looked up to Reiner from the beginning. He was a strong dude who was extremely motivated, someone Eren wanted to be like. It was clear that they were close, and outside of Eren's OG trio, probably the guy he could fall back to the most. I think you guys know where this is going. I honestly just wanted to show this scene because, well, it's an all-timer. It's up there for the best plot twist of all time. And another one is from this show. So yeah, this show is very good. I don't know if you guys need this, but Attack on Titan is very good. I watched this scene spoiled and it still was amazing. But how it relates to this whole thing with Eren is that it was an indescribable betrayal for him. The guy he trusted and looked up to so much was the one responsible for his world crumbling in front of him all those years ago. Yes, he dealt with the same thing with Annie, but this was clearly different. But even despite this immense betrayal, Eren was able to overcome and fight back, and he fought back hard. He really did not seem that fazed by it in the fight. We'd see that was because of how fast Eren was able to just dismiss his previous notions of Reiner, as he doesn't even see him as a person anymore. He puts it better himself.
We're living in a hell you two created! Are you proud of yourselves? You're not one of us, you've never been! You're not even human anymore!
By categorizing Reiner as something so different from him. Well, about that, much later on, Eren realized that this just wasn't true. That Eren was pretty much the same as Reiner after he learned about Reiner's upbringing. How really Reiner was just pushing for his own goal, and how he himself had to keep moving forward despite tragedy, and how that push changed and affected him as a person. They like the term half-ass piece of shit. For Reiner, this referring to the fact that he was starting to grow fond of the people of Paradise, and that was affecting his ability to do his mission. Despite his mission and Marley's ultimate desire to destroy Paradise, Reiner befriended them. For Eren, it'd be about his goals with the rumbling and how he just couldn't stop himself from massacring the globe, but still acted righteous and tried to save people. This dynamic is among the best, if not the best dynamic in the show, period. It was so interesting to see, especially with how the events of the story panned out. But there was a key difference. By the end, Reiner couldn't keep moving forward with his goal. He couldn't live with himself and he first tried to end it all, but then went to help the Alliance to stop the rumbling. He changed his view. When he was trying to stop the rumbling, he no longer cared about the Marleyan status he fought so hard for, because it didn't matter. He didn't really have the want for his mother's approval anymore, because well, probably he thought she was dead. Her surviving at the end and praising him was a very nice bonus for him. He just wanted to be able to live with himself and try to save the world. But with Eren, he didn't stop moving forward. In fact, he only moved more forward. It's fitting that the rumbling was just him commanding a bunch of titans to, move forward, because that's what he did. Just like he did all the time ago in season 1. He could not change like Reiner did. And that's really where the tragedy kicks in. He could not change, not he didn't want to change. That's where the misunderstandings I think come up. Eren was never this cool and calculated manipulating boss dude that season 4 at times portrayed him to be. He's not Lelouch. In fact, I'll bring that comparison up at the end. Eren again at his core was just a dumb kid born in a hole that only dug himself deeper. A humongous idea with Eren is the idea that he was born this way into this world, that he believed he was innately born free. But let's focus on that idea of freedom. When you think of Eren Yeager, you of course think of freedom. But what exactly was his definition of freedom? Well, it was to see the outside world, right? To go beyond the walls. But then what? After that, is he free? Was it just to be able to go to wherever he wants? Was it safety? It was really the world he envisioned from Armin's books. Those sights that he was barred from seeing. But was it really? At the end of season 3, when the scouts made it to the ocean, everyone was amazed. They could not believe such a thing existed. Their entire worldview was changed as they saw something really they could only dream of. You could see the pure joy in Mikasa's face. She smiles here, which is very rare. She smiles like 3 other times in the show. And Armin, the guy who introduced Eren to this idea of the world's wonders like to see, looked like that little kid again. You can see it in his eyes when he sees the sea and the seashell. So how did Eren react? The guy who was the most compelled to see this world? He looked unsatisfied, almost sad. You'd expect him to be ecstatic and fascinated like Armin and celebrate with Armin and Mikasa, but no, all he can say is,
And we killed our enemies. After that, would we finally be free?
So despite him finally seeing what the world actually has to offer, he doesn't feel free. Now of course at this point Eren saw the future. When he kissed Historia's hand, he saw the rumbling and what he would do. So you could argue that he wasn't ecstatic about the sea, because how could he after what he saw? And well, yeah, but it still shows a lot that he wasn't excited at all. What's really important is that him seeing the future made him realize that this vision of freedom he's had for his entire life didn't exist. While those sights did, there is now another set of walls blocking him, that being Marley, and he could not handle that reality. As he puts it,
I've never been so let down.
he just couldn't accept the reality of the world he was born in. The idea of being born free was getting more and more invalid, but he could not let that just stand. Unlike everyone else, he doesn't give up on his dream. He keeps moving forward. That's his tragedy. He couldn't stop moving forward even if it was for his own good. Now comes a conversation of the motives behind the rumbling, and those are what I just mentioned. It was for his freedom. A last-ditch, desperate attempt to create the world he's envisioned for so long. And he knows it's wrong. He knows killing at this scale is unjustifiable, that he would become the worst person in history. But he couldn't stop himself. Now of course there were other motives. He really did want his friends to live long lives. He really did want them to be happy. So yes, that was one of his motives. It wasn't the main one. He had absolutely no real motive for rebuilding the Eldian Empire. Ironically, he was probably the least Yeagerist person even though the group was named after him. So yeah, A&R, you're in a bunch of bullshit. Season 4 Eren had so much conflict within himself. He knows he's gonna do the rumbling, but at the same time he doesn't want to. He knows he has to distance himself from the ones closest to him, but he doesn't want to. It's really here where the tragedy peaks. He's doomed no matter what he does, and he knows it. It's hard to remember, he's only 19, yet he's already been through this much, and he went through so much more. Going to Marley and cutting his own leg off and poking his eye out. Dissing himself from his loved ones for 3 years and then having to watch them die while fading away from their lives. He doesn't want Sasha or Hanji to die, and he doesn't want to tell Mikasa he hates her and that she's a slave. He's loved her more than anything for his entire life and really didn't notice until it's far too late. Speaking of Mikasa, let's talk about her dynamic with Eren now for a bit. Now, I've already made an Eren Mika video that you guys should totally watch, by the way, but I'll condense what I said over there. These two embody the cruel but beautiful world idea that this story has so much of. They are each other's beauty in the cruel cruel world they live in. But the tragic bit with them is how the quote directly applies to themselves. Mikasa was so enveloped in Eren's beauty that she didn't recognize his cruelty before it's too late. Eren just made her world so beautiful that it just overshadowed it. On Eren's side, he didn't realize how beautiful Mikasa made his world. He focused so much on the cruelty and the lack of freedom in his world. He pushed too far and didn't realize what he had in front of him. This idealized and unobtainable vision of freedom corrupted his mind. Eren was a really caring and loving character. After all, his last actions were making sure his friends lived well off and signing them off. He's a soft kid, so when he says,
I want to be her one and only love, even if she does get over me, I think it should take her 10 years at least.
it should be of no surprise. This is the real Eren. The Eren we saw so long ago. They are at their core the same person. This is him finally breaking down after being under so much internal conflict. The fact that people dislike this scene because it showed him being too vulnerable is absurd. He really was just a dumbass with power that for whatever reason couldn't stop himself from wanting to see the sight he's dreamed of since he was a kid. Even Mikasa was able to give up on her biggest dream in life to save the world. Again, he's not Lelouch. Don't compare them. At a large scale, they may seem similar with their circumstances and obsession with their cause, but when you look into the specifics, they're not so similar. Lelouch was literally introduced as a chess player. Everything he does is cold and calculated. Zero Requiem was very thought out, and throughout the story, Lelouch acts like the world is one big chess game. Eren was not like that. He wasn't as smart and wasn't as cold. He's someone who was controlled by a single overwhelming drive. Him moving forward ironically prevented himself from moving forward as a person. He does mature, but at his core he doesn't change. He doesn't get to live in fascination with his best friend, and he doesn't get to live out the rest of his life with the love of his life. He kept moving forward right off a cliff for an idea of freedom that doesn't exist, for an idea that's so misguided. We all need something to anchor us down in the wild storm at sea that is life. Eren couldn't learn that, and how the story portrayed it and progressed makes it such a beautiful tragedy.